It's so easy to find yourself getting emotional when you're watching the Olympics and you catch those era-defining moments, the victories that you just know you're never going to forget. And I guess it's because you're in complete awe of what you've just seen, which is someone who's pushed themselves further than they ever thought that they could, through failure, exhaustion, self-doubt, to this moment that you see in front of you of unrivaled perfection, of breathtaking greatness that we all just get to share a tiny bit of as spectators. And when it comes to that small handful of people that we call the GOATs, the greatest of all time, it's about so much more than that. It's about their character, the things in their life that they've overcome and what they represent. I'm Liz Bates, and today we'll be talking about Andy Murray as he retires from tennis at the Paris Olympics and the gymnast Simone Biles as she adds to her gold medal tally. So what makes them the best of the best?
I think my body's ready to stop. Mentally, I'm ready to finish playing, and the Olympics is also an event that is really special to me. I've loved being part
Watching
of this.
Andy Murray compete for the last time, I think everyone was reflecting on just what an incredible career he's had, but also how different he is to that pale, skinny, quite tetchy teenager we first saw play at Wimbledon. It was 20 years ago now. So let's speak to someone who knew him way back at the beginning, Sue Mott, who's a sports journalist who helped him to write his first autobiography in 2008. So, Sue, you've covered Andy Murray's career for a long time now. So, first of all, those scenes last night as it came to an end, what was that like for you to watch?
Well, it was lovely. I'm sure it was lovely for everybody who's really appreciated Andy over the years because, you know, we remember him as that sort of waspish grump with fluffy hair at Wimbledon when he was a teenager. And really, you know, so many people sort of took against him, not least because of the supposed anti-English feeling. And just to see the way he was loved and lauded in the middle of that court last night, and genuinely so, I thought it was really touching and he deserved it.
What do you make of him choosing the Olympics as his final competition? Because we all remember that moment in 2012, and that really felt like a turning point for his career. So do you think there was a significance in that?
I do. I think it's partly because that was a turning point, beating Federer, you know, in the final of the Olympics, and handily so.
Such a special moment for all of us.
Oh, such a special moment. And because it was wrapped up in playing for his country and in this country, and was a proof to him, I think, that all his competitiveness, hard work, absolute love of tennis could, after all, be converted into victory over the very, very best.
But it has been a journey, right? Because his
yes.
sort of public reputation, and particularly his the way that he's interacted with the press, it's changed a lot since he first came onto the scene. So tell us a bit about that.
Well, I've been in sports writing a long time, and I don't think anybody has gone from such villain to hero in their lifetime. I mean, he just was pretty much vilified when he was a teenager. The press was very anti, partly because he was so grumpy in his dealings with them. And that's partly because they misunderstood him. I mean, they thought he was, you know, anti-English because of the joke he once infamously cracked about Scotland and England going to a World Cup. And I think he was just misread. I mean, he was a teenager, for heaven's sake, when he got on court. So he was moping and swearing and stomping around the court. And I think because, you remember, he was quite frail. He had spindly legs. I know I compared them to pipe cleaners once upon a time. And he just wasn't strong enough to compete. And I thought that they were pretty cruel on him, the press, in the initial days, expecting him to be the fully formed winner when he wasn't ready to. But in actual fact, he had all the ingredients that would make him a winner if they just gave him time and a bit of patience.
So you spent time with him during that period, before he became this kind of national hero.
Yes.
that we kind of see in front of us now, when you worked together on his autobiography. So what was your impression of him then?
Well, I remember getting the gig to write it and being thrilled, because obviously you're delighted to be working with someone so interesting, but fearing the worst, really, that he might be monosyllabic and very wary of someone who was a member of the press corps. But in actual fact, when I first met him to start writing the book, you could tell his grandma or something had told him to do this. He must have regarded me as an old lady, because he came over and gave me a kiss on the cheek and said, "Thank you for writing the book."
That's very
sweet. Blew all my, I know, so sweet. He blew all my anticipated horrors out of the water at that point. And he really did try just to be honest. And he was honest about all sorts of things that were really, really sweet and funny. Obviously, Dunblane, on one hand, was the horror that he'd lived through, and he did his best to articulate that. I think he's talked about it more as he's grown up, and did that wonderful interview with Sue Barker about it. But he was just a boy. He was just a boy trying to grow up and to be brave and strong and fit enough to play tennis, and all the frustrations that poured out of him were always just connected with that. But you could see he was a lovely, sweet-natured, wily, comic boy, ready to grow into a man.
What is the kind of magic ingredient that takes very talented, very hardworking sports people to the next level and makes them, like Andy Murray is certainly in this category. What is it in somebody's character that gets them to that place? And because you talked to him about his childhood, do you think that is rooted in some of the experiences people have as children?
Well, they said so, because he's very close to his grandparents, his mum and dad, Jamie, and he was always ultra competitive. There was the classic stories of overturning the Monopoly board if he was going to lose. But even playing tennis, he'd get really upset and frustrated if he didn't win. And despite Judy's best efforts, to make him see the wider picture, he just loved tennis, but he loved winning more. And when you're that competitive, I think that's probably the root cause then of the hard work and the training you're willing to do, because he has beasted his body over the years. I mean, when you think of that little thin teenager throwing up on the side of the court because he just couldn't. He just didn't have the strength to be as winning, to have the winning game he wanted to.
Yeah.
And you think of him now, look what he's done to his body. He's completely transformed it. And now he's bionic with his metal hip. And think of the pain he's gone through over the years. And he's been prepared to do all that in order to be the best competitor he could be. So I think it's competitiveness.
And
I know Judy had it too, so I think it came up through the family.
And do you have to kind of put everything else in your life aside if you want to achieve great things in sport? Can you really have anything else going on in your life apart from that, or do you have to be completely focused?
Tell me about it. We're writing the book. I always remember this. And I get to the point where I'm saying, okay, Andy, let's talk about other things besides tennis. I said, what are the other things in your life? Have you ever done anything naughty, drugs, drink, women? And he just looked at me as much as say, what? No. I said, well, have you ever been drunk? He said, oh, yes, once. I had a whiskey and was sick outside a nightclub in Barcelona. And that was it. And, he's been devoted to Kim, virtually his first girlfriend, ever since they met. Drugs, he hates taking aspirin and frankly refuses to take anything. It was a nightmare. There was nothing else going on in his life except the fun, of playing tennis, training with people, because, he's not antisocial by no means. That man is devoted to tennis and family.
So tennis has been his entire life up until this point. It must feel so strange now it's not going to be there. What do you think is going to come next for him?
I wouldn't be at all surprised if he didn't try being a coach. If you remember how much respect he had for Amelie Mauresmo when she trained him, it was all part of his feminist personality, which is absolutely authentic. He was really interested in the way she coached him, because he loved her touch and feel in the game as well as the power. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if he wasn't open to coaching a woman or a man. But, I think a woman might be a really intriguing thing for him. And obviously, everybody will try and get him as a commentator at Wimbledon and whatnot. I'm not really sure if it's a thing. He always said to me the thing he hated most about himself was his voice. And of course, he's a devoted family man as well. So I can see him doing lots of charity work, actually, and training of all sports with kids, that kind of thing.
Do you think the UK will ever see another Andy Murray in our lifetime?
Well, it would be crazy to get another one, wouldn't it? We'd waited about 70 odd years when he appeared, and I think he is a one-off in my mind because of the work he put in, his pure love of the game, and what he was prepared to do for himself to win.
Sue, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
When we come back, we'll be turning to Simone Biles and asking how her strength on and off the floor has completely transformed gymnastics.
I was like, okay, if it goes well, we'll wear the goat necklace. I know people will go crazy over it, but at the end of the day, it is crazy that I am in the conversation of greatest of all athletes, because I just still think I'm Simone Biles from Spring, Texas that loves to flip.
On Thursday, she really lived up to that necklace, which, if you haven't seen it, is an actual sparkly silver goat, when she won her second gold of this Olympics, taking her career medal tally to 37 and making her the most decorated athlete of all time. To get into the mindset of Simone Biles, we wanted to speak to someone who's been in her shoes. So we're joined now by Cathy Williams, who was Great Britain's first black Olympic gymnast at the Los Angeles Games in 1984. So, Cathy, this is a question which I think I know the answer to already, but do you think she deserves that goat necklace that she wears?
I mean, she's the undisputed GOAT, greatest of all time. And I think she has totally transcended gymnastics to another level. When I was competing in 84, did I know that there would still be gymnasts at the age of 27, at the age of 30 plus, still competing? No. My generation of gymnasts kind of retired late teens, very, very early 20s. Not many went over 20. And the sport has just skyrocketed. And how amazing is that? She's writing her own narrative. I mean, the history, her legacy. Oh my goodness, it's just amazing.
We're talking about this kind of label today, the greatest of all time. And Simone Biles is maybe a bit unusual in the fact that she has properly embraced that about herself. She's been criticised. People have called her arrogant. What do you think the line is between being very confident and believing in your abilities and kind of tipping over into arrogance?
She has a confidence, which you do need to have when you're the best gymnast of all time. I think the necklace would have been a gift. I doubt she would have bought it herself. I think somebody would have given it her as a testament of all that she has achieved, and well deserved. Wear it with pride, Simone, wear it with pride.
You will have some of those characteristics as well that top athletes have. What is it that takes you from being good, talented, hardworking to being somebody that can compete at the highest level?
It's about the individual. It's about your personality. It's about your tenacity. And also that investment that your coaches, that your family and friends have you, that talent that was spotted when you were a junior, that talent that was nurtured and continued throughout your career. It's so important that you have a network of people behind you. You don't do it on your own. Simone Biles has self-belief. She has tenacity. She's got extraordinary ability. And I think also that desire to be the best and to conquer fear and not to let negativity pull her down. I mean, it's been very difficult over the years for her, and she has stepped back. She has taken some time to be still, to reflect and re-energize and come again, but with real force and tenacity.
How important is it, do you think, for young black women to kind of have a role model like Simone Biles? Even just things like, you know, some people were kind of talking about her hair, and she was able to kind of say, look, don't come for a black woman about her hair. You know, she felt that she was kind of in a position where she could say that. And, you know, you think there's a lot of young black women who would look at her and think, yeah, good. You know, it gives them the kind of power to be able to stand up for themselves in that way as well. How important do you think that is?
It's very important. Racist abuse is obviously very painful. It's very hurtful. Racism can be covert and overt. It can also be disguised. It can be subtle. It can be public, and it can be very obvious. And throughout your life as a non-white person, you will come across racism. If you're around people as well that don't see it, it's even more difficult. And, you know, it's sad that you have to be on the defensive all the time, but you are in the spotlight, and, you know, there are going to be people who are going to be negative. However, positive role models are very important for that confidence, for that self-assurance. And, you know, if you can see it, you can be it. And Simone Biles is it, the greatest of all time. And she's an inspiration to so many. Black and white, culturally diverse. She's an inspiration.
And what about the children that you teach? Do they love Simone Biles?
Absolutely. They're inspired by them. They talk about, oh, I've seen you, Kathy. I went online. I know you went to the Olympics as well. How is it? Could I get there? Could I do that? And anything is possible. Just like Mandela said, it always seems impossible until it's done. So I will always inspire young people and anybody to reach the highest level that they possibly can.
Well, that seems like a good place to finish. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Kathy.
Thank you so much, Liz.
That's all for today. I'm Liz Bates. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, Neil Patterson will be back here in the hot seat, so do come and join him. Have a good weekend.